Hello and welcome to the Banker's Tech Talk video series, keeping up with developments in the fintech space. I'm Joy Macknight, Managing Editor at The Banker, and I'm joined by Diana Paredes, founder and CEO of Suade, which automates regulatory data requirements for financial institutions. Diana, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So I know Suade is considered to be regulation as a service platform. What does that mean, actually?
So we realized when we started, my co-founder and myself coming from the financial industry, that the regulation is changing at a pace that's never been seen before. And at the same time, the technology that's trying to implement that regulation is pretty much the same kind of technology that failed us in 2008 to alarm, to ring the bell telling us, okay, this is what's happening next. And so what we really wanted to achieve with our technology was to have technology that would be as good to update as what we have in terms of, in our phones and applications and things that we use in our day-to-day lives. And so what regulation as a service meant to us was to really go with the spirit of creating technology that would be easy to update given the regulatory requirements, feedback loop that we're getting from the regulators and for the industry to implement.
But what kind of resistance really did you meet inside the banks when you were really trying to talk about really re-engineering their whole compliance process?
So it's a fascinating realization, because when we started, we really thought, and also people were telling us, right, that the problem will be that the data in the industry is a mess, or that the legacy, infrastructure or the spaghetti code that there is within financial services would be really, really hard to displace, and that it would be really difficult to create technology that would be able to displace that. And so part of the things we were hearing is that the reason what you guys are doing has never been done before is because it's impossible. It's not going to be possible to have a good approach to data and to actually bring modern pieces of technology in a whole infrastructure that's very old school. And we just thought, okay, well, let's just try it. And we've demonstrated the technology is possible. So our tech does exactly what it set out to do. And the resistance is not really a technological problem. It's really more a legacy mentality approach. So we speak about legacy data and legacy technology, but really it's more legacy mentality. So people being really used to doing things in a certain way, in a very manual way in some instances, and that being very difficult to displace. So the resistance is, I would say, more political and human than actually the reality of the tech, which I think is fascinating, because I didn't know that would be the case going into it.
So what were your sort of killer arguments when talking to banks to implement your technology?
So at the start, obviously, it's quite different than, as you start getting more customers and as you grow as a business, you're really trying to convince people from zero. And I like to say, we've really gone from zero to Davos. We were World Economic Forum Technology Pioneers, chosen last year by the WEF. And all of this comes from, having very little support at the beginning and then finding, I would say, champions inside organizations to work with us. And so at the beginning, the conversation was, listen, I know this is not the way things have been done in the past, but maybe things need to change. And so really finding people with whom that conversation resonated was the journey initially.
Okay, and I know another passion of yours is really about getting more women into the regtech space.
Yeah.
Why is that so important, and how can we really do that actually?
I think that in not all instances, but in a lot of them, for women that start families, most of the burden culturally ends up on them. And so that means that it will have a huge impact on their careers. And I was in a really privileged position to not have to be in that situation. I literally brought my daughter to the office for the first year pretty much, but I had to have a nanny full-time in the office because it is a full-time job. And so I think that what we need to do as an evolved society is to really create infrastructures and designs in the cities and in the way that we live that allows people to make the choice of making a family without having to give up a career or their ambitions, because that's not really the setup we have right now.
My last question is really around the future of regtech.
Yeah.
How do you envision that?
So the future of regtech, from my perspective, is very much around just revolutionizing enterprise software for the financial industry. Because regtech is really, like 101 enterprise software, really. And so the way that enterprise software has been done in the past few years, I think some companies have maybe been getting away with murder. And so we need much better technologies. We need much better interoperable systems and ways for data to flow from one place to the other without any restrictions or any things that that really drives long and painful integrations. So for me, regtech and the future of regtech is very much taking the regulation almost as an excuse, because it's there and it's an expense you have to make, to really change the infrastructure in your organization so that your data can flow, not just to the regulator, but also internally. And the opportunities there are massive. I would say it's a huge opportunity for the market to basically upskill themselves into better technology, and hopefully a good opportunity for the regulators as well to become better versed as to the impact of what technology can do for their requirements in the market.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your insights, Diana.
Thank you very much for having me.